That's a flavour of Peter Oborne, whose book is author of The Assault on Truth. Now, I've got another book in my hand, which is written by a friend of the programme, Andrew Jimson, who's written several biographies of Boris Johnson. Welcome back to BH, Andrew.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to start by saying a year ago, the Prime Minister was about to go into intensive care. We feared that he was going to die. And although we're going to discuss his record, this is a historic year. It's a historic Prime Minister, whatever view one has of him.
Yes, and his chances of success have at every stage been underestimated by his opponents. Who include, obviously they include Peter Oborne. And I think there are several severe objections to his way of thinking, but the worst one, in a way, is that it blinds the person who, like dear old Oborne, becomes sort of blinded by a kind of intense but narrow-minded self-righteousness, which prevents them from understanding why Boris Johnson could ever appeal to anyone, and prevents them from asking the question, does Boris Johnson sometimes tell the truth? And if you want to understand why he's been rather more successful than people expected, you have to realise that in December 2019, a lot of voters, including a lot of Labour voters, thought that about Brexit, get Brexit done, he was telling the truth. They think all politicians are liars. So Peter's great dossier is sort of no news to the wider British public. Go into any saloon bar when you're allowed to do so, and you'll find people who'll tell you that.
So in other words, we hear a lot about the great lie, but the great truth is get Brexit done. We voted for that, and he did.
I think throughout his career, Boris Johnson has shown an acute understanding of what the big story is, which began with him being a correspondent in Brussels. Jacques Delors wants to get more power for the European Commission. That was the big story. The details infuriated, and to this day infuriate, his opponents because he embroiders them, he uses them as, he exaggerates them, he gets them wrong, and so they denounce him as a liar. But
right.
on the big judgments, I would say that Peter Oborne mentioned Theresa May, a wonderful woman, a woman of Anglican conscientiousness, but I'm afraid not possessed of the necessary toughness and subtlety to get this Brexit thing sorted out. And Boris, you do need other qualities in a Prime Minister apart from Anglican conscientiousness.
Yes, but it's a good contrast, isn't it? You've taken me to the vicar's daughter.
Yes.
Versus the man who made up a quote in the Times. And if we just scamper forward in his career to the claim made to the face of the leader of Her Majesty's opposition that Labour had voted against a 2% pay rise for the NHS, which they had not. So, in other words, I think what we've got to get to grips with is Peter's point that Allegra Stratton, who's paid by public money on a public podium, albeit one that looks like a sort of 1980s car showroom, is paid by the public to say this stuff, and maybe she needs to learn a new script.